Hello and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Criterion, your exclusive channel previewing all the Criterion Collection releases. In this edition we have a double film bill with Claude Berri's Chant de Florette and Manon of the Spring, coming for the first time to 4K UHD. Chant de Florette and Manon des Sources, or Manon of the Spring, are two films directed by the French director Claude Berri, adapted from the 1963 two-part novel The Water of the Hills, written by Marcel Pagnol. The second part was also adapted from Pagnol's own 1952 film Manon of the Spring. Chant de Florette was originally written as a prequel to the novelisation of Manon of the Spring. The story takes place in rural Provence in France in the 1920s, where we see two local farmers plot to trick a newcomer out of his newly inherited property. The film starred three of France's most prominent actors of the time: Gérard Depardieu, Daniel Auteuil, who won a BAFTA and a César award for his performance, and Yves Montand in one of his last film roles. The film was shot back-to-back with Manon of the Spring over a period of 7 months, and at the time the most expensive French film ever made. It was a great commercial and critical success, both domestically and internationally, and was nominated for 8 César Awards and 10 BAFTAs. The success of the two films helped promote Provence as a tourist destination. Now, there were many French critics, however, who denounced Berri's heritage approach in the film and accused him of returning to the literate style of filmmaking that had been branded cinéma de papa by François Truffaut and the young guns of the influential journal Cahiers du Cinéma. The film's told in 2 parts, although designed as one complete movie, and they tell the story of how greed destroys lives in 1920s rural Provence. César, that's Yves Montand, is the childless landowner whose only hope of a legacy is his hard-working but dense nephew Hugolin, Daniel Auteuil. Now, Hugolin dreams of growing carnations, but the perfect land is frustratingly not for sale. When an argument with the owner leads to his accidental death, the land falls to Jean Cadoret, Gérard Depardieu, hunchbacked former tax collector from the city and the son of Florette, the girl who broke César's heart. Now, César and Hugolin resent Jean, that's Jean de Florette as they call him, and they hatch a plan to see his dream of a rabbit farm fail. A decade later in Manon of the Spring, Jean's daughter Manon, that's Emmanuelle Bérard, plots revenge for her father on Hugolin and César. Chant de Florette and Manon des Sources were adapted from Marcel Pagnol's novel, written ironically after Pagnol's film Manon des Sources was butchered down by the studio in 1952 from 4 hours into just 2. It's a richly filmed, luscious picture, crammed with gorgeous locations, sweeping camera work, and a marvellous score that riffs on Verdi. It's an entertaining story of injustice and comeuppances. Its first half, that's Chant de Florette, is at times painful, and it's an unfolding of Jean's inevitable failure. The second half, Manon des Sources, sees all those chickens come home to roost as Manon's suspicions about César and Hugolin's duplicitousness are confirmed. But what perhaps made Chant de Florette as successful as it was is its mix of merchant ivory and BBC costume drama. Many outside of France essentially took it as art because the characters spoke French. But Chant de Florette is a tasteful, classy, very well-made prestige package designed to be easily digestible. Claude Berri marshals events with the skill of a natural producer. He's effectively a French Richard Attenborough, and he's a great deal of natural talent with actors, but without the true inspiration of the greats. You couldn't mistake Chant de Florette as something, for instance, made by Carnet, or even Godard or Truffaut. It's decidedly too carefully and tastefully made for that. It's not a surprise, though, as Jean's techniques are totally alien to the traditionalists. Played by Depardieu with a wide-eyed enthusiasm, guileless honesty and trust, Jean takes on farming as if it's another mathematical problem. He has books full of calculations and productivity rates that he expects to hit, covering everything from rabbit breeding to the daily amount of soil and water needed for crops. And he's prepared for anything except the cruelty of humans and the weather. Instead, his superhuman efforts come to naught. Forced to walk miles a day to carry gallons of water back to his farm to irrigate his land, he starts to resemble the weighted down donkey he drags along with him. Rubicons are crossed one by one. Even his wife's necklace is eventually pawned. For all his promises that would never come to, Hougoland does everything he can to befriend and support Jean without actually helping him, even ploughing the land for him when Jean comes close to finding the hidden water supply. Now, this makes it all the easier to despise César and Hougoland, especially as Berri cuts frequently to these hypocrites giggling at their own deviousness and Jean's suffering. It makes Manon des Sources arguably the even more rewarding of the two, all the more satisfying as we watch the two of them slowly destroyed, events replaying themselves from the other direction, leading to a series of shattering reveals that break César and Hougoland from their satisfaction and their complacency. These two villains are portrayed in masterful performances by Yves Montand and Daniel Auteuil. Under buck teeth and a foolish grin, Auteuil is sublime as a man who has it in him to be decent, but is all too easily led by his forceful uncle. And Montand has the juiciest part, which flowers into one of the true tragic force in Manon des Sources. César is a man whose life of regret and loneliness has turned him into a bitter old man, grasping and greedy and hungry for a legacy. He treasures the few possessions he has of Florette, faded letters and a single hair comb like relics, and subconsciously he can't bring himself to actually meet her son. Suppressed sadness makes him even more tyrannical and foreboding. It's this emotional power that gives the two parts of Jean de Florette its force, and it may be very self-consciously a prestige picture designed to appeal to the masses, but Berri's conservative style is matched with a great skill of drawing powerful performances from his actors. He does this in spades with his four leading actors, and events eventually gain through their performances. Some of the force of a Provence Greek tragedy, perhaps. Jean de Florette and Manon des Sources, or Manon of the Spring, both manage to avoid melodrama and provide real dramatic meat. And while it is not high art, it certainly is very high drama. Now, casting was the key factor in these films. With the main protagonists in Jean de Florette, we have Yves Montand as César Soubremont, the Papé, which is local dialect for grandfather. Then we have Daniel Auteuil as Hougoland, and Gérard Depardieu as Jean Caderet. Then we have Elisabeth Depardieu, that's Depardieu's actual wife, as Amy Caderet, and Ernestine Mazoarma as Manon, the daughter of Jean and Amy. And in Manon of the Spring, we have Emmanuel Bayard as Manon, Hippolyte Girardot as Bernard Olivier, Margarita Lozano as Baptistine, and Yvonne Gamy as Delphine. Now, there's one particular sequence in Manon of the Spring in which Manon bathes naked, and that posed a considerable difficulty for the director. Being modest, Emmanuel Bayard was reluctant to undress in front of the crew, and in an effort to resolve this situation, Claude Berri undressed and dived naked into the water himself to break the ice. As a result, of course, Bayard followed suit. Now, the presentation comes in 3 separate discs. There's 2 4K UHD discs containing each film, and a Blu-ray with the films and these special features. Claude Berri, the Car Dealer, 2018, a documentary on the director Claude Berri's life and career. The Force of Destiny from 2017, a documentary about the making of both of the films. Trailers, new English subtitle translations, and an essay written by the film scholar Sue Harris. and illustration for the cover art is by Sam Hadley. Now, I'm slightly disappointed on the special features on this set, but at least we do have a later documentary on both of the films. With gorgeous cinematography, keen insights into human nature, and superb performances from three icons of French cinema, these richly absorbing moral tales at the time of their production were the most expensive French films made at that time, and they are triumphs of epic storytelling in the classical tradition. Jean de Florette and Manon of the Spring come in a 2:3:5:1 aspect ratio, and Jean de Florette has a running time of 121 minutes, and Manon of the Spring a running time of 113 minutes. They come with a collective spine of 1257, and they release on 4K UHD in the collection in the US only on Tuesday, the 22nd of April. Next time on Let's Talk Criterion, we combine our edition with two releases from Sean Baker, and that's Prince of Broadway and the Oscar-winning Anora, both of them coming to the collection on Blu-ray and on 4K UHD. So until then, from me, as always, it's goodbye, and above all, good Criterion viewing.